A sneakerhead to me is when your wife comes home with groceries and she can't find room on the floor in the kitchen to put the groceries down because it's full of shoes and boxes and you're trying to figure out what's what. That's when you know you got a problem, and that problem is being a sneakerhead.
So I show up on the morning of, and it's just insanity. There's hundreds of people on the block. Cops are already there, and they're asking, what the hell's going on over here? And the kids would not move. And the cops are saying, if y'all don't move, we're gonna start arresting you guys. Kids been sleeping out there for 4 days. They're not moving, you know what I mean? So cops start arresting kids. And one kid was like holding on to the gate like he wouldn't let go. On top of that, there were people that brought weapons to the thing. They brought baseball bats, there were knives, there was a machete found, like a fucking jungle machete. We then had to set up a way for them to exit out the back door of our store, and the police actually set it up so that taxis were waiting outside the back. And the police were like, just get in the cab and get out of this neighborhood.
And it's all over a pair of basketball shoes.
Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Can I kick it?
A sneakerhead is someone who learned Roman numerals by collecting Jordans.
The word sneaker is usually attributed to Henry Nelson McKinney, an advertising man who popularized the phrase way back in 1917. Since Marquise Converse founded his classic company, kicks have transitioned from the playground all the way to the runway. As recently as 50 years ago, consumers had far fewer choices. You could get your Cons, first dubbed All-Stars, in high or low top and only made of canvas.
They're everywhere.
The German company Adidas, founded originally by the Dassler brothers, introduced leather and suede sneakers into the marketplace in the early 1970s. When pro players in the Harlem Rucker tournament started wearing them, an entire new world opened up. The early 80s saw the emergence of brands like Reebok and PUMA, but the true watershed moments came in the mid-1980s. In 1984, the first Air Jordan dropped.
On September 15th, Nike created a revolutionary new basketball shoe. On October 18th, the NBA threw them out of the game.
Okay, so, but what's wrong with the coloring? What rule do we violate here?
Well, it doesn't have any white in it.
Uh-huh. Well, neither does the NBA.
2 years later, Run DMC released their hit song My Adidas and encouraged 16,000 fans to hold up their Adidas at Madison Square Garden.
My Adidas, walk to traffic doors, and roll all over, trying to see them bust. I stepped on daily, and I aim all the people gave, and the poor got paid.
The boom of signature kicks in this era provided the necessary elements to birth a community where the goal was to wear the freshest, hardest to find, limited edition models that have grown to almost mythic proportions. What began as a subculture is now omnipresent.
I think you can definitely trace it connected to the growth of hip-hop, where white kids in the suburbs, they didn't want to look preppy anymore. They wanted to have a little more flavor because they love the music, so they want to dress like that, so they just bought the same sneakers. And I think that's absolutely the turning point.
You know, you talk about the beginning stages of like the Adidas shell toe, Air Force One high. I think sport had a lot to do with that because sports along the way stopped being just about athletics. It became pop culture.
So we looked at pop culture and made it mean something more to us than just average things like, is it good leather?
So Run DMC, My Adidas, with the way they wore Adidas, they had the first endorsement deal for a non-athlete with the $1 million contract with Adidas. Hip-hop started going mainstream. Then what rappers wore started going mainstream.
It's street culture. As hip-hop emerged and this new style culture that came along with the Jordans, skateboarding came along the same way and blended all aspects of design and street culture.
Hip-hop, skateboarding, and sneakers have changed the world.
Athletes wanted to be rappers, rappers wanted to be athletes, you know, like everyone had a clothing line and a record deal.
Musician, entertainer, movie star.
Those things are seamless now. They've really merged. Somewhere along the lines in the last 10 years, kids started to really look for that third-party validation.
And because music is such a big cog in our cultural wheel, you pay attention to what these musicians are doing.
It's the kids trying to emulate their heroes by wearing the same thing they wear.
Their idols, their icons rock this. So for them, it's like, oh, it's a piece of them that I can take home with me and I can come correct.
You know, I think you had a whole generation of people looking to wear sneakers whenever they possibly could. You know, and norms shifted.
History, technology, design, celebrities, retail, business, all this stuff, all packaged into one subject, one culture that a lot of people can relate to, even if they aren't collectors.
The UPS man, he might have some chocolate Adidas on or Nikes.
Sneakers are everywhere.
Before we go any further, let's get a few simple terms out of the way. Colorway refers to the combination of colors used in a particular release. Retro is a shoe that has been reintroduced, sometimes with a few cosmetic differences. Collab refers to the marriage of an outside artist or designer with a particular model, as in Jeff Staples' legendary Pigeon Dunk or Frank the Butcher's New Balance 999 Kennedy. Deadstock is a brand new shoe that has never been worn, offered in its original box, often collecting dust in some shoe store basement. Limited edition is a shoe produced in limited quantities and only available through a handful of retailers. Nike calls these quick strikes.